is up, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Real quick, let me know in the chat if how my volume is on my microphone. Because last time we were having some issues. So before I get going with the missing, I want to make sure you guys can hear me all right. So I'm just going to check my settings here and make sure they're set up. Test 1, 2, 3. If you can, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if it's loud, soft, or one in the chat. That'll work too. Good to see everybody. As always, shout out to my wonderful mods, Karen D, Copper Horse. They do an amazing job. Jennifer, I know she hasn't been feeling well. They do such an amazing job. And quickly shout out to Laylee for becoming a member and supporting this channel. Thank you so much. When you become a new member, there's plenty of member videos that you get access to. I've been making them for almost 2 years now, so you get access to all that, plus the emojis and future member videos. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. Okay, so volume's good? Awesome. All right, soothing voice, thank you so much. All right, so if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover true crime, mystery to the missing. And before we get started, we always like to give back by featuring missing person posters. That is one thing that I try to separate myself from other content creators, and I'll kind of explain the way I do it and why I do it. But first, we'll feature them, and then we'll talk about why I do it this way. So today we have Carly Cardenas. 14 years old, 5'9", 185 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. It looks like she was last seen on September 22nd, so that's been 2 weeks about. Looks like she's a runaway. She was placed in a group home, which is absolutely terrible. It's a complicated situation, legal matter. But right now, as what it says in the notes, what's the most important is finding Carly and providing a safe environment for her. So 14-year-old Carly went missing in Maricopa County, Arizona. If you're from that area or around that area, please be on the lookout for her. If you have any information, you can call 520-316-6800. And then one more, this came in, and I'm probably going to butcher this, so I'm just going to go with her nickname. She goes by Etta. So it's Etta Lynn Grau. She went missing on March 15th of this year in the Pinellas County Sheriff's, in the Pinellas County area. Let's see. She's 19 years old, brown hair, brown eyes, 5'4", and I'll blow up her picture here in a minute. Just reading the notes here. She was last seen at 4125 Park Street North in St. Petersburg, Florida. Wait a minute. So it says March 15th, but it's got September 2022. Not sure what I'm missing there. But anyway, she went missing on March 15th. It says Grau suffers from various mental disorders and has a mental capacity of a 7-year-old. Throughout the investigation, there has been statements that Grau might have traveled to Tennessee with an unknown male. However, there's no evidence to support those statements. She previously lived in Illinois and has family in that state and in Indiana. She has a scar on her forehead and her ears pierced. So, could be many places she could have ran off to. But here's a close-up of her. Make sure you guys can see that okay. Just 19 years old. Got her whole life ahead of her. If you have any information, you call 727-582-6483. Oh, God. Did you guys hear that? Somebody's honking the horn outside. All right, so today we're going to be covering the latest details in the Bardstown tragedy is what I got to use because YouTube doesn't like me using certain what they call trigger words, so I have to kind of use some verbal judo to get around that. But Before I get into that, I just want to say one of the reasons why I do what I do as far as featuring these missing persons in the beginning is I attach them to much bigger cases that are much widely known. Because if I were just to do a story on, say, Carly or Etta, sadly, because it's just people aren't looking into that case and it's not in the algorithm. So if I did a video on it, I may get a couple thousand views, but it ain't gonna be nothing like covering like the Bardstown case or Crystal Rogers. So what I do is I take these cases, these missing persons that just that deserve the attention, but sadly, they're not gonna get the attention. Even if I just did a whole video on it, sadly, it's just the way the algorithm works and the way that YouTube and social media, sadly, it's just how it works. So I figured the best way to do that, to get their name out, is attach it to these bigger cases. And so that's what I've been doing for almost 2 years. I think it works. It's the first thing they're going to see when they come in to watch a video. For anybody that's watching, has a family member or friend that goes missing and needs the exposure, you can email me and I'd be more than happy to feature them in an upcoming live. We do it all the time, and I've been so blessed to have this channel, and I wouldn't be here without you guys, and that's the way I try to give back for having this platform. So I just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to watch the show. Okay, so let's get on to the big news. And one more thing I just want to say is, I cover a lot of cases. Some I know very well, like Delphi. Is one of the cases I know probably the most. Brian Coburn case quite well, and cases like this where yes, I've covered it before, but it's been over a year, and there's, like I said, there's some cases I know a lot more, and then some I don't, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But I try to do my best, and I may get things wrong. If I do, please feel free to correct me in the chat or in the comments. I am human and I do make mistakes, but it happens to the best of us. But I try to get the word out because I think this case is a big case, but I think it could be a lot bigger. It's got so many just crazy, because it's not just one unsolved case. There's 4 main cases attached to this, and so we'll quickly recap this story just for anybody that doesn't know, because we did cover this. What was it? Last week, was it? I think last week, and there's been some new information since then. And so we'll do just a quick recap. And like I said, if you're in the chat, I'm sure there's some of you in here probably know a lot more than me. If you see something I say that's wrong, please correct me. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it here. And so this is just starting before Crystal Rogers. This is in Bardstown, Kentucky. So an officer, Jason Ellis, was heading home around 2 a.m., just finishing his shift on May 25th in 2013. He was getting off this exit of Bluegrass Parkway, and we're going to hear the Bluegrass Parkway come up quite a lot in this entire Bardstown fiasco or tragedy. But he was getting off this exit here that we see, and I'll blow it up here in a minute. But he was getting off exit 534, and as he was getting off the exit, looping around, as he was coming around the loop, he noticed that there was some trees and branches that were purposely cut down, that were placed in the road, blocking, the drivers. And so he saw that. He had pulled over. But sadly, what he did not know is this was an actual trap. And so as he got out of his vehicle to move these branches and whatnot, sadly, somebody with, I believe, a 12-gauge shotgun came up, shot him, sadly took his life. In this case, has still not been solved to this day. So that happened in 2013. And what you're going to find, if you're new to this case, is it seems like every year something bad happens, at least for 4 years in a row here. So we move forward a year, almost exactly a year later, except it's April, not quite a year. You got a mother and daughter who, the mother, she's a special education teacher, Kathy, and then she has her daughter, Samantha. Sadly, they were found in their home on April 21st. Kathy, the mother, had been shot multiple times. Samantha, the daughter, was beaten, and sadly, it was terrible. I'll just leave it at that. We'll leave it there. But very brutal. They believe that a black Chevy Impala was near the home. There's not a lot of information as far as like suspects or anything. It's another case, just like Ellis, where there's sadly just not a lot of information for the public to go off of. And so that happened, like I said, almost a year later. Still unsolved to this day, sadly. One thing, and I know there's a lot of people that all these cases I'm going to bring up believe that all four are connected, and it's quite possible. I think maybe if any of them may not be connected, maybe this case, just because I know from reading into this case a little bit that they said, I know the mother was against like gang activity and stuff like that. And sorry, 1 second, my fan turned on. Okay, sorry, that was my little portable air conditioner. Anyway, but yeah, so they were very outspoken with, I guess, gang activity, and there's rumors, just rumors that I know of at this time, that they this could have been in relation to their outspokenness against a gang, and so this was some kind of gang initiation or something. But that's just speculation. We don't know. But yeah. Let me see what's saying in the chat here. Dorothy says, I think they're all connected, and they may very well be. I just know that reading into that case a little bit, that they were saying about the connection with the gang, and it's certainly plausible. Then so let me move on to bring this here. Then we move on. So just like last year, another year goes by, and another tragedy, sadly. And this is with Crystal Rogers. She's at the time she was 35 years old, a mother of 5. And she was last seen on July 3rd. And we'll look at the timeline real quick of July 3rd. But she hadn't been seen since July 3rd. 2 days later, on July 5th, they would find her car abandoned. And like I said, the Bluegrass Parkway is going to come up. So it was sitting on the side of the Bluegrass Parkway in Bardstown. Near what they say mile marker 14. And now it supposedly had I don't know if it was a completely flat tire or semi-flat tire, but clearly it was staged because she had her keys in there, she had her phone in there, her purse, everything of her belongings, but no Crystal. And one of the things when I watched the Peacock documentary is they talk about that there was another incident where she was driving her car with a flat tire, and instead of like pulling over and maybe changing the tire or whatever, she ended up just kept driving, and I don't know if drove home or drove to a safe area, and she literally wore off the rubber where it was driving on the wheels there. So they say it's unlike her just to kind of pull over for just a minor flat tire. That didn't seem like her. So clearly the car was staged. And so they, of course, brought in Brooks Houck, the boyfriend, which we have in the top left here is a picture. And they had a baby together in the middle here. But according to the timeline, is they went to a Walmart around 4 p.m. I believe she's seen on security cameras at Walmart at 4 p.m. And then I think there's one besides Brooks, one witness seeing Crystal alive around 5 p.m. And I'm not sure if I think that was coming out of the store or something like that. But later on, according to Brooks, because we don't know what really happened other than what Brooks said in an interview, but he says that they'd eventually go to the Houck's family farm. So they didn't live at the Houck's family farm. Brooks' mother did, and I'm not sure who else lived there. But they decided to go to the farm with the baby. And I forget the age of the baby, but it was, very young at the time. They thought this was odd because apparently it was pretty stormy, but according to Houck, they were like feeding the cows, just walking around the farm, and but like I said, it was raining and getting dark, and they thought it was kind of odd, for having this child, and with the circumstances, thought it was kind of weird. But he says they stayed pretty late there, and then they eventually would go home, and then returned about a little after midnight. And then apparently, according to Brooks, he was in bed with the baby, and the last time he saw Crystal, she was playing on her phone. And apparently he went to sleep, woke up the next day, and she was gone. But instead of like the next day, worrying about where she's at, like a normal person or a normal boyfriend or someone that cares about the other, according to Brooks, he says, "Oh well, I thought she just went to a friend's house," and yeah. So we talked about that. So we did bring up the interview a little bit. It's a weird interview. He was brought in. I'm not sure exactly, but July 8th. So that was 3 days after they found the car. He came in for an interview. About an hour or two into the interview, almost at 7 o'clock, he gets a call from his brother. For those that don't know this case, his brother at the time is Nick Houck, who is at the bottom left here. Nick Houck, during the time, was working for the police department. But he gets this call, and we'll play a little bit of it later. And it's clearly staged. And basically, he acts like he's his brother's telling him that, hey, you're still at the interview, they're setting you up, and you should probably leave. And anyway, that didn't obviously look good on Nick, because he works for the police department, and here the police are just trying to do their job and get answers. So they would eventually bring Nick in, and then eventually do a polygraph, and apparently he failed his polygraph, and they ended up firing him because he was obviously getting involved in the investigation in a way he shouldn't have, and the captain wasn't happy, so they ended up firing him. So one thing I forgot to mention, let's see, did I put this out of order? There we go. So one thing I got to mention, so one more tragedy, a year later, so after his daughter's disappearance, and they did eventually name Brooks Houck as the main suspect, but they just couldn't get anything on Brooks. Now, the father, Tommy Ballard of Crystal, started looking into her disappearance, and they believed that he was getting close. In the documentary Peacock, you actually get to see kind of what he had. He has this big file box of papers and USBs and CDs and just stuff that he'd been researching. And, excuse me. Sorry, and I'll get to chat here. I just wanted to catch up. And then we'll get to the latest, but I'll check chat here in just a second. But So a year goes by. He's searching the disappearance of Crystal. And sadly, on November 19th, so another year goes by, 2016, 16 months after Crystal's disappearance, Tommy Ballard was preparing a hunting trip with his 12-year-old grandson on the family property, which I've got pictured here in the bottom left. And we're going to look into this because this is what's kind of the big news is what was recently released is some evidence that they have the rifle that was used to assassinate Tommy. So while he was out there with his grandson, sadly, according to I think the grandson, he was standing near Tommy. Tommy had noticed something out in the distance. Keep in mind, I think this is around like 7:30 a.m., maybe a little earlier. And so I'm assuming maybe, I don't know if it's still dark or just kind of getting semi-light, but it was morning time. But Tommy did notice something out in the distance. I think he was going to look down his scope or something like that. And as that happened, a shot rang off and there was one shot fired. It hit him in the chest and instantly took his life. And so they believe this was clearly an assassination. And this was because Tommy was getting close to possible answers to Crystal, his daughter's disappearance. So absolute tragedy. And then just to kind of fast forward, they started getting tips and stuff where they thought maybe Crystal Rogers may have been buried. And they have dug up so many places. And here's even one. Let me pull up this here. Because Brooke Houck, at that time, he worked in the real estate agency. So he had rental properties. And so they believed that possibly she had been buried at one of these. They also believed that she was buried at the Houck's family farm, or at one point was buried there and then moved, which is most likely the scenario. I think that's probably what we'll find out, is that she was probably buried at one spot and then moved. But that had been going on for the last, since 2006, 2015. Was it been 8 years? So yeah, it's been kind of off and on. They would have a new place where they'd be digging up, and hopefully, they'd find something. But as far as we know, nothing's panned out, but that may change. So then we move to this year where finally we get a couple of arrests. And so now I'm going to check the chat while I play this video here. Yeah, get this here updated. See it. Oh, bummer.
Crystal was last seen alive on July 3rd of 2015. At the time, the Nelson County Sheriff's Office was handling the case. Brooks Houck told police the couple had fed cows at the family farm and then went home together. He says the next morning she was gone. 4 months later, the sheriff at the time announced Crystal was presumed dead.
She has vanished.
And declared Houck the main suspect.
No comment. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
The FBI took...
Okay, so
That brings us from the home of Brooks' brother, former Bardstown police officer Nick Houck, and the family farm. That brings us to June 21st of this year, when a grand jury indicted 32-year-old Joseph Lawson on 2 charges: conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. His attorney confirmed it was in connection to the Crystal Rogers case. And finally, the arrest of Brooks Houck, now charged with murder and tampering with evidence, on a $10 million cash bond.
Okay, so let's kind of try to put this in order so it's easy to understand, especially for those that may not know this case as well. So we did talk about Brooks Houck, 41 years old now. Of course, he dated Crystal Rogers, and then, of course, they had a child. After her disappearance, he took custody of the child, which scares me because it gives me Susan Powell vibes. But I know that the Sherry is looking into getting custody. The grandma, the mother of Crystal Rogers, she's trying to get custody or some kind of visitation. Hopefully she gets custody of, I can't say his name, but it starts with an E, but the grandchild. And so hopefully that'll eventually come to pass. But yes, Brooks would be eventually arrested in connection with Rogers' disappearance. He's facing 2 counts and possibly more. We talked about Nick Houck, who is the brother of Brooks, former police officer, but was fired in 2015 because he failed his polygraph test. He was suspected into interfering with and not fully cooperating in the investigation to Rogers' disappearance. We'll talk about the other part. This guy here, Joseph Lawson. So I wanted to bring him up, and then we'll continue the clip just so you guys understand who this guy is. And there's not a lot. Joseph Lawson, 32-year-old Nelson County man who, along with Brooks Houck, has been arrested. So these are the 2 guys that have been arrested. And this guy is no stranger to the legal system, especially as it relates to allegations of bad things against women. I have to be careful with my verbiage. But, yeah, he definitely has a rap sheet. But his actual connection to Brooks in this whole case right now, we don't know. Other than that his father, Steve Lawson, so the father of Joseph, Steve, worked with Brooks Houck in the real estate. And as a matter of fact, they even bring up Steve Lawson during the interview, the original interview with Brooks. But some people are wondering, there's a picture of Joseph when he was in his court appearance. He was in a hospital bed. I didn't know this at the time, but Lawson is a paraplegic in a wheelchair. Apparently, I guess he had a bad motorcycle accident in 2021 and now is a paraplegic in a wheelchair. So, sounds like karma to me, considering his rap sheet. So, that's just a little bit of background on Joseph Lawson, who was the first one to be arrested in this Bardstown tragedy. There's a new look. Here's him at his recent hearing.
Packed with family members stunned to learn that prosecutors have the gun they believe was used to kill Tommy Ballard, who was actively leading the search for his daughter. WHS 11's Shay McAllister and chief photojournalist Philip Merle are in Bardstown right now. And Shay, everyone was there to learn if Houck's $10 million bond would hold up. So how did this news about Tommy Ballard come out today?
Oh, Doug, well, when you think about a courtroom hearing here, there's a lot of things you expect to happen, and especially in an arraignment, and those things did happen. We talked about the bond reduction. They talked about the thousands, literally thousands of pages of evidence in the case. They also talked about a possible move of venue later on for trial. Here's what we didn't expect. A bombshell in another unsolved Bardstown case. The prosecutor telling us not only are they investigating Tommy Ballard's death, they think they know who was responsible. In front of a packed courtroom, another shocker in the small-town murder mystery that just keeps twisting and turning. For the first time, we hear who investigators believe killed Tommy Ballard. Special prosecutor Shane Young saying they are currently testing a gun that belonged to Nick Houck.
So this is the bombshell that is really the main part of the show, because right now, we have these 4 unsolved cases. Finally, we get 2 arrests in connection to Crystal Rogers, but we still have the 3 others, Tommy, Jason Ellis, and then, the mother and daughter. And here, this is a bombshell right here.
We're investigating the murder of Tommy Ballard that could potentially be related to this case. We are waiting for testing to come back on the firearm we believe was used to murder Tommy Ballard, a firearm that we purchased from Nicholas Houck, who was using a fake name when he sold the rifle.
The prosecutor going into detail about why he believes it will be a match.
We know it's the same caliber. There's 5 criteria that they're looking at, and so far it's matched 4 of the 5 criteria.
In the front row of the courtroom, the Ballard family looked stunned, Sherry's eyes filling with tears. It was a...
I mean, that's amazing because they've been waiting so long, and I mean, we'd have like a 5-hour show just to go through the timeline of like 2016 to like now with all these possible leads of finding Crystal's remains. They've had so many instances where they went to, you know, some of these properties, like I said, the Houck's farm, some of the properties that Houck owned at one point, and digging up and hoping that, you know, they would find her. And they've had so many heartbreaks in this case. I can't imagine what this poor lady and the family has been through. Absolutely terrible. But now, finally, things are going their way. They're starting to get a little bit of, you know, leeway with the Crystal Rogers case. And now hearing that her husband, Crystal's father, Sherry's, late husband, Tommy, is now, this prosecutor's obviously saying that we have the weapon, and sounds like they know who possibly pulled the trigger.
Moment this family has been waiting for.
That feel real good. We thought it all along, but after prosecuting Shane made that statement, we feel a whole lot better, and I think it won't be too long.
He thinks Nick Houck could be the next arrest, but...
And that's Tommy, that's Tommy's father here, this guy here.
After prosecuting Shane made that statement, we feel a whole lot better, and I think it won't be too long.
He thinks Nick Houck could be the next arrest, but he and Brooks weren't the only ones from the Houck family mentioned in the courtroom. Prosecutor Shane Young accused the family of violating Kentucky law by secretly recording grand jury proceedings.
Yeah, this is crazy. So the mother of Nick and Brooks Houck, and I don't know who else, but a couple of other family members brought, I don't know if they were recording on their phone. I'm assuming their phone probably, or, some kind of voice recorder, but they were recording the grand jury hearings, which is a huge no-no. Obviously, I'm not a law person, but I can only imagine that's not good. As a matter of fact, there is some quotes saying, I've never heard of that. And anyway, so they might be facing some charges as well.
Defendant's sister, Rhonda McEvoy Houck. Brother, Nicholas Houck. Mother, Rosemary Houck. Brother-in-law, Alex McEvoy. And Rosemary Houck's live-in boyfriend, Larry Mott, all recorded, secretly brought in recorders and recorded the grand jury. I've been practicing here, Your Honor, for 25 years in this state, and I have yet, ever, heard of anyone recording a grand jury.
He alleged the family was trying to get their story straight, trying to solidify a lie.
As has been stated before, the truth will set you free. The problem in this matter is the truth will imprison Brooks Houck. And we're asking
I'll
Your
have to
Honor
look that up, Chris
to keep
Davis.
the bond the same.
The defense did submit a request to lower the bond. It was what we thought would be the most interesting part of court today, but it was only covered briefly. The defense wants it lowered from $10 million to $500,000. Attorney Brian Butler called the current bond oppressive.
The grand jury out of Nelson County that set this bond, I had been practicing 28 years. I had never heard of a bond even coming close to this.
And I can tell you I've never asked for a $10 million bond.
And I don't blame him. I mean, this has been a long time coming.
This is the first multi-millionaire I've prosecuted for murder.
Young alleges Houck's construction companies, rental properties, and real estate is worth $10 million, if not more. He says this bond is fair for someone who has so much to lose. Ultimately, the judge asked for more time to review the new information. He says he'll make a decision later. And as the courtroom emptied, we had some questions for Rosemary Houck, Brooks' mom. Any answers about her son Nick and the new accusations that he killed Tommy Ballard. But Tommy's dad had these final words.
I'm hoping he'll be the next one arrested.
In a case that continues to stun Kentucky and the nation, another bombshell comes out of court. One the Ballard family hopes is bringing them that much closer to real justice.
Yeah.
And the next
And shout out to her. I think her name's Shay. I forget her full name. But I guess she's been covering this, a local out there who's been covering this case probably very extensively over most of the others. So shout out to her. I've been seeing her post a lot on Twitter or some kind of interaction with her.
Court date is set for February right here in Nelson County. Of course, eventually it won't be here in Nelson County. The defense already told us today they do plan to ask for a change for this trial to be held in a different county so that Brooks Houck can have a fair trial. Now let's dive into that a little bit more. Everyone in the United States has the right to a fair trial, something that Houck's defense team is working hard to guarantee for their own client. So what would a trial with this much media attention actually look like? Judges have relied on 6 major ways to combat press publicity on a jury. One is a change of venue. When the defendant could ask to move the trial to a different area, it would take the trial out of Nelson County into a different county here in Kentucky. Conversely, judges could also bring a jury from another place. So the jurors would not come from Bardstown. They would go through an extensive voir dire process to see if they've heard of it or they know about the case. Juries from other areas might know less or haven't been exposed to the media coverage compared to people right here in Bardstown and Nelson County. There is still a very lengthy process to go before we reach a trial. It could be more than a year before we see Brooks on trial. In fact, today, Brian Butler, the defense attorney in this case, told the judge he doesn't think it's realistic that there will be a trial in 2024. He's already looking ahead to 2025. Well, as you know, Brooks is not the only person in this case. There is a co-defendant. His name is Joseph Lawson, and he was arrested just a couple of weeks before Brooks. A Nelson County grand jury indicted Joseph Lawson on 2 charges: conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. Lawson was arrested on September 8th. He was arraigned shortly thereafter. The court entered a not guilty plea on both of those charges. The bond was set at $500,000, and his next court date is October 26th.
Okay, so there's more to this, but I wanted to pull this up, see what you guys think, and maybe we'll do a poll here. So now we kind of go over some of the characters involved. You know, we've got the 2 guys arrested here, Brooks and Joseph, and I'm sure Nick is on his way because, and we'll look up a couple of documents as well, but apparently Nick used a fake name to purchase a rifle that he used to sell to somebody that was ultimately used in taking Tommy's life. So I'm sure charges will be coming. And maybe there's more charges that they're waiting on. Maybe that's why they haven't arrested him yet. Let's see. Okay, I think I just talked about this. But yeah, so law enforcement, it sounds like, so obviously law enforcement has the gun or the rifle that was used to take Tommy's life because they're quoted, and we just watched it. If you missed it, they said they ran 4 out of the 5 tests, and I wish that we had Steve in here or Steve on the show. I'm sure maybe he could explain what those 5 tests are. I'm sure he'd probably have an idea of what those tests consist of, but they said they've ran 4 out of the 5, and so far they're all consistent. So it sounds like they know, obviously, the weapon used to kill Tommy, and who took Tommy's life. So this is the question, because right now we have 2 arrests. So it says with 2 arrests so far, which is Brooks and Joseph, with possibly more to come, which will most likely be Nick. Makes me wonder who was the man that pulled the trigger that took Tommy's life. You know, was it one of these guys or one of the 3 guys here? Could Brooks have been behind Crystal Rogers, which, I mean, he is being charged for her right now. So could it be that one of these two guys were the trigger man when it comes to Tommy, or was somebody else hired that we still haven't hasn't been brought to light? But let me know. Let's see. Maybe we'll do a quick poll here. Let's see. Let me jump over here. Oh, I can't do it unless I clear the chat. That's okay. And if you want to share it in the chat, if you guys just from what we gone off, if you have a guy that you think out of these three that may have pulled the trigger, let me know. Let me close this. I forgot I can't pull up all the options when I have it open. But it makes me wonder, because if they know who killed Tommy, I would think they had been arrested. But then again, maybe they're still waiting for more evidence to come through, or maybe they're waiting, like they said 4 out of the 5 tests, so maybe they're waiting for all tests to come through. And if it is somebody that hasn't been named yet, that will come soon. But and we'll take a look dive a little bit deeper into where he was assassinated. But let me finish playing the video here.
Taking a closer look now at this investigation. It has been a conversation. It's 20 minutes long. It's on the WHAS 11 YouTube page.
So that's a pretty picture to see. Finally, Brooks. I'm sure people that followed this case, this is a long time coming. And it's good to see him being arrested. This happened on the 27th of September, so it's been a little over a week and a half, almost 2 weeks.
Doug?
Well, Shay, we've got a lot of questions to go over right here at 4 o'clock. Let's go back to the $10 million bond. Do we have a decision from the judge yet on that? I know the arguments were pretty strong from Brian Butler to lower it. Can you go over those again?
Absolutely. Okay, so here was the main case on both sides. Brian Butler said in all of his years of defense work and all of the clients that he has had and that he hasn't represented, he has never seen a bond at $10 million. He said at most $1 million or $3 million, never $10 million. He said that this would kill Brooks Houck's business. This would leave his son without a father, and that if he were truly to stay in jail until trial on a $10 million bond, it would be very detrimental to his defense. He wouldn't be able to work with the attorneys the way Brian Butler wants him to. On the other side, Shane Young, the prosecutor, said it was $10 million for a reason. He said he too has never imposed a $10 million bond, but Brooks Houck has a lot of assets. 3 different companies, more than 70 rental properties, huge real estate sales just in recent years. He said,
so I guess they're afraid if they had a much lower bond, you'd clearly make bond, you'd have the money for it. And then who knows, maybe skip town or whatever. So they don't want to let him go, especially now that this has been a long time coming. I mean, this is 2005, 8 years. So
said for Brooks Houck, $500,000 is chump change. It's nothing. He would most certainly get out. The judge did want time to review all of this. Multiple documents were handed over today. So the judge said he's going to read through all of that. He will write a written order. He will submit it online. That's where we'll find out about that bond.
Okay, so no decision at this hour as we speak. But of course, I know the question you've been asking, the one everybody up here still wants to know, Nick Houck. He was really named in this as a possible in connection with this today, but he remains a free man as we speak tonight.
For now.
It's a truly stunning development. You don't typically hear investigators, prosecutors mention main suspects before they make an arrest. It was shocking 8 years ago when the Nelson County Sheriff at the time called Brooks Houck the main suspect in the case. Today, the prosecutor didn't use the word suspect, but he certainly hinted at a person of interest in Tommy Ballard's murder by saying that they had purchased this gun from him. They were testing it and they believed it was used in that case. That was not something we were expecting, Doug. That was a huge bombshell today.
And again, it's not a huge issue in the grand scheme.
And so here is Nick probably one of the last days he has was an officer for Bardstown. And this, I believe this little clip here is after he took his polygraph. And I don't know if this is the detective or polygrapher or what, but he's basically talking to him and saying, hey, you failed. Can you explain why? And of course, Nick gets very defensive. And anyway, he would be fired shortly later.
In terms of you being in a certain spot or not being there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I already know the answer to that, the truth, the ground truth, as we say in polygraph, and you're saying something other than what I know I can prove, it raises questions in my mind.
That's not happening.
Well, but it is my point.
Okay, whatever.
It is. My point in that is...
I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you've heard, but I'm just telling you, I didn't do it. I don't know nothing about it.
You did.
I don't know anything about it. My brother, and I can tell you, I know him well enough, he didn't do it. It's just the way it is. I mean,
have you ever known somebody that you said wouldn't do something and it turns out they did?
I'm sure I have, but it wasn't my brother.
That's right. So you're choosing to believe.
Because I know him real well.
I understand.
Yes,
Well, look,
yes, I am.
And if it's my brother, I'm gonna feel the same way.
Okay.
Okay. My point being is just because you feel that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Well, I mean, I feel 100%. Not 96, not 98. I mean, there's just no. This is crazy. He would not have done that.
Well, what you're saying is you believe him. At the end of the day.
Well, it's not that I believe him because I haven't questioned him about it. I haven't. That's
why.
Because I know him well enough. I don't have to ask him that question.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm asking really is this.
Yeah, what a wild case. And we got more to look into here. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yeah, these police want that police officer gone. Gosh, like I said, I know this case, but this is not a case that I know a lot as much as I do about other cases, and especially some of the like Ellis and the mother and daughter, much less than I do with Crystal. So I couldn't really answer that, but there are some connections and stuff like that have been brought up. Karen Boardman, thanks for all your work you do for the missing. Thank you so much, Karen, for the 6 months. That's so. Oh, actually, no, member for 8 months. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. 8 months. That's so long. I really appreciate the support. It means a lot. Really helps this channel out. So thank you guys for any donations and memberships. So there's his little interview, and we've kind of looked at a little bit of it. And just while we're here, here's just a small clip. I'm going to play the first part. I played this before, but it's kind of comical. This was clearly staged. But here his brother calls. As you can see the time, I think he was brought in around like 5 p.m. or something like that. So it'd been like 2 hours. And right, as you can see, it's 7 o'clock on the clock for those that can see it well enough. And he gets this call magically right on the dot. It's his brother Nick on the other end, and he's acting like he's, this is all just, natural. That he's just getting a call from Nick. But clearly they planned this beforehand. And then what he says in the first 2 minutes clearly shows that this was all staged.
No, I'm not. I know that. But the way that I look at it is I'm innocent. I ain't done nothing wrong. I know you told me innocent people have got jammed up, but if you're telling me to leave, I'll get up and leave. If you want me to.
I don't think innocent people leave, do they?
But I'm trying to get this guy to help me.
Libby Easter. I live 20 minutes away from the whole family.
I don't think she's ran off with some other guy. I don't believe that. You can't make me think that. No.
Ooh, that's right.
Yeah, so do I. I'll do exactly what you're telling me to do right now. You want me to get up and leave? Man, I don't think these guys. I don't think these people got vindictive just to skin me for no reason. Man, this is not their family.
It's very cringe to watch because then he starts going, "Well, I don't know what she did. Did she run off with some guy?" And it's clearly staged. And as a matter of fact, Vinnie Politan from Court TV did a little funny skit on it. And if we get time, we'll play that little clip. I thought it was pretty funny. But 420 Mama, Ellis was not in his normal SUV and did not have his canine. That's right, I forgot about that. When his life was taken, only an insider would know this, right? And weren't they on wasn't Nick and Ellis? I don't know, I don't know if they were partners, but they were like working the same shift or something like that. So there's definitely clearly some kind of connection. Oh, yep, somebody's saying it right there. Just James. Nick worked the same shift as Ellis, same department. Right, yep. So, yeah, like I said, the other cases I know a little bit about, not as much as like the Crystal Rogers and Tommy Ballard. I've kind of focused more on that, but it's just amazing that they, hopefully it'll be a domino effect with this case. And it's already becoming that. I mean, here we've got Crystal Rogers, and now they've got the weapon that supposedly was used to take Tommy's life, and they supposedly know who pulled the trigger. So, I mean, that is amazing. Let me see what I got on this. Anyway. Oh, yeah, he just finishes by saying, "Oh, well, I think my brother says that you guys are going to try to railroad me." Anyway, Nick's captain, who's a really nice guy, he's interviewed in the Peacock documentary. I think it was originally Oxygen, but Peacock has it on their streaming service. I really like Peacock because it's pretty cheap, and if you're into true crime, Peacock's a really good streaming service for true crime. They have a lot of good true crime stuff on there. Just to shout that out. But I forgot where I was going with that. Anyway, let's look at just the situation with Tommy real quick, and then there's some more things to look into. So let me pull up Google Earth here. Show you guys sadly where this took place. Let me take a sip here. That's right, yeah. Okay, Nick was off work, so suspiciously off work while Ellis was unalived. Yeah, wasn't it like, if Ellis was there, then, if Nick was working it and the switches, the shifts were changed or whatever, it was kind of suspicious that Nick was off and Ellis was basically getting off. They did mention in the documentary a little bit that Ellis was looking into, some drug-related charges and stuff, and there's obviously some theories and speculation that could have been in retaliation, that he was getting close to, something bad, and so he was targeted, and so that's obviously something that was that could have been happened. What is a grand jury? Who is on it? Thanks for your hard work, Chris. Awesome mods, great community. I'm passing through your state tomorrow, Chris. Really awesome. Yeah, it's a beautiful state, especially now you're coming through October. You'll see the not to get off track, but we have the Rocky Mountains. If you come through Salt Lake City, you'll get to see the kind of the fall changes of the leaves and stuff in the mountains and stuff. It looks really cool. So a great time to be passing through. And thank you so much, June, for the $4.99. So I'll pull up what a grand jury is. kind of a jury that so when they need to indict somebody, in this case they had to indict Brooks. They have a secret jury that comes together and listens to evidence, and then this jury determines whether they should proceed with the indictment. And the kind of indictment's the first step. So grand jurors do not disclose any, and it's behind closed doors. It's not public. You're not supposed to really know what goes on in a grand jury. And like I said, this is coming from somebody that doesn't know a lot about the law, so probably the last person really, but I understand it to a point. But yeah, grand jury jurors do not disclose any information received within the confines of the jury or the identity of anyone appearing before them unless permission is given. All hearings pertaining to criminal cases are conducted in complete secrecy regardless of the outcome. So either if they indicted or did not choose to indict, that's all kind of kept behind closed doors for the most part. What does a grand jury do? They may subpoena a person or persons and or records to obtain information on subjects under investigation. So after prosecution or whatever, they have, they believe that somebody may be involved in something like, the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. They would look into, basically they looked into Brooke Houck's, and they subpoenaed records, information. They look at what, law enforcement has, and then they determine whether they have enough information, evidence, whatnot, to go forward with an indictment. And then from the indictment, then they move to, an arrest. I'm not sure the exact order of everything, but that's kind of in a nutshell. Hopefully I got it. If I got something wrong, let me know. So that's just kind of the basics. But the grand jury, the big thing is it's secret. It's behind closed doors. The big thing is secrecy. So when they mention that this family brought in recording devices, and what they mentioned, like 4 or 5 names, and you hear that the prosecutor say that in his 20 plus years he's never heard of that. I certainly had never heard of that. So I'm assuming they're going to face some probably serious charges. I don't know. If we get time, we'll go back to that and look and see if we can see what charges would stem from recording in a grand jury like that, because that's a big no-no. Certainly a big no-no. Let's see. Dandy, 31 miles. Oh, okay. I think you mentioned where you're at. I'm not sure if you're south, north, east, west of me, but it kind of like a regular trial, little different. I mean, I've never done that. I've done jury duty, but yeah, it's a little bit different. Anyway, if I anyway wants to clear up what I talked about with the grand jury, like I said, that's just the basics. But let me get back. But that's a great question. June. And again, thank you so much for the donation. That really helps this channel. So let's just quickly look at what happened and where it happened. So here it is, right here. When I got Google Maps. So this is actually where Tommy was assassinated, sadly. So I'm not sure if they own this property or this property. But he was going to go hunting with his grandson, his 12-year-old grandson. So just an absolutely terrible thing that a grandson has to witness something like that. But I'm not sure exactly where they were standing, but they were standing somewhere in this area here, approximately. But they did figure out during this documentary where they believed the shooter was standing, which was somewhere in this area with this. So there's just kind of a, this one little tree line that, so here, I'll give you a little better visual here. So, through this tree line is the opening field that we were just looking at with the overview. Let me minimize this just a little bit. There we go. And so this is where a question comes in. Was one person or two people involved as far as the entire incident? And in the documentary, they kind of talk about, they believe that there was probably a driver and then the shooter. And keep in mind, this is 7:30, a little before in the morning. So and that's what was it, September, November? So it's probably a little, sun going down and coming up late. Maybe it's still darker outside. Not sure on that, but it seems that the shooter, and it seems like this was definitely, they obviously knew that was their property. That was the family-owned property of Tommy Ballard. Probably knew. I mean, this is why people suspected that Brooks Houck and them were involved, because it had to have been somebody close to the family to know that they were going to go hunting that day. And as a matter of fact, it seems like in the documentary, they actually, let me pull up Google Earth here as well. Here we go. And so in the documentary, let me clear this here. They had noticed, because they were kind of looking through this tree line to see if they could find any kind of evidence, and they noticed that there was one tree in particular that actually had like a branch that was cut off, and they could tell that it was actually kind of something that had done recently. And then they brought out this guy that's well known with weapons, guns, rifles, an expert in that. They had brought him out, and while he was out there, he had actually noticed while they were looking at the tree, I'm not sure if it was the same tree or the tree next to it, they noticed that the actual tree this shooter was standing next to, because they noticed that there was what's called kickback, which is kind of like the recoil of a gun. And they noticed that when the shot was taken, when the recoil kicked back, it actually hit part of the tree and kind of, made like a mark on it. And so in one of these trees here is that tree that they had found, where so the shooter was standing somewhere in this way, looking, I'm not sure which way we're facing right now. So he would have been facing east. Yeah, kind of northeast, I guess. And I'm not sure exactly where they were standing, Tommy and his grandson, but they were standing in the distance here, getting ready to go hunting. And like I said earlier, from what I believe the grandson said, is that Tommy had noticed something in that direction. I believe went to look either with binoculars or through the scope of if he had his rifle out. And as he did that, the shot rang out, and sadly, one shot in the chest, instantly taking Tommy's life. But the two-person theory is going back. Actually, let me go back to Google Earth or Maps, excuse me. Is they believe that there's probably a driver involved. Make sure I got it set up. And what they did is, so we'll look at the freeway here to get a better idea here. And what probably they probably had the driver pull over, let the shooter out, and either the shooter maybe drove off and then circled back around, just kind of allowing the shooter to get in position, and then maybe waited back down the road until, maybe they communicating with cell phone, text, whatever, who knows, or maybe just listened for the shot. Who knows? But they believe that possibly there was a driver and a shooter. The driver dropped the shooter off. And after the shooter shot, driver came back around, picked him up, and then took off. So they believe that 2 people could have been involved in that assassination. Let's see what you guys are saying here in chat. Tim Gray. Sounds like Tim Gray knows a lot. Shay is such a stellar investigator. Yeah, when I was looking this up, yeah, she is mentioned heavily in this. Definitely been one of the top reporters, I'm assuming is what she is, on this case. Who was driver? Yeah, we don't know. I would assume maybe it could be one of these 3 guys, Nick, Brooks. Wouldn't surprise me if one of those 3 are involved. Right, that's why they believed that this was clearly somebody inside. And clearly, it would have been somebody on the inside knowing that they were getting close to answers as well. Because in the documentary, Tommy Ballard, he had a lot of information. They kind of show what he had dug up, and there was certainly a lot of different interviews. Here's Tommy, just in case. So at that time, that was Sherry's husband, and obviously the father of Crystal. And any father like himself is going to do whatever they can to get answers for their daughter. And so clearly it just made sense that somebody on the inside that was close to the family knew that he was getting close, and they had to take him out. And sadly, it worked, because it threw this investigation off for quite a long time. And then they sadly spent many years after with Tommy digging up all these different places, getting possible leads that they believed where Crystal was buried. And sadly, no, they still, as far as we know, they have not found the remains to Crystal. But maybe hopefully that'll change. I know this guy, hopefully this guy will talk, because it sounds like he doesn't have much to lose. He's a paraplegic now because something that happened to him in 2021. So obviously, he wasn't paraplegic when all this stuff was going down. Apparently he's super depressed, so maybe he'll squill and just take the deal or whatever. So hopefully this guy talks, spills the beans, and then I'm just really curious to know what they have. Who is the guy that pulled the trigger? Because it sounds like they know who did, but there has been no other arrest right now. But this only happened the other day, so it may take a little bit of time. So let's see. Here is the indictment, which is not very big. Let me pull this up. So this is the indictment. It was redacted. It's only 4 pages. It doesn't really give a lot. I'm at the bottom. That's why I can't scroll down. This is in regards to Brooks Houck. Right now, he's facing 2 charges. Obviously, the big one, which I can't say out loud because of YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about, taking a life. And then the other one is tampering with physical evidence, but they go into a little bit more detail about that one, which is count 2. And this is obviously in regards to Crystal, not Tommy. So there could be more charges coming to Brooks and or the other guy. But count one, it says that on July 3rd, 4th, because they're not sure exactly if it was the night of the 3rd or early morning of the 4th, that the defendant, Brooks Houck, acting alone or in complicity with another, committed the offense of taking a life intentionally, manifesting extreme indifference to human life, causing the death of Crystal Rogers. And then count two, there's a lot more to this one, which could suggest that maybe he moved the body. So I'm going to read it out loud. Let me zoom it in so you guys can see it. Because this may give us some hints as to maybe what kind of happened. So on July 3rd, and this is count two, the above named defendant Brooks Houck, same thing, acted alone or in complicity with another, tampering with physical evidence. So I'm going to assume with that one right there would be obviously her car, because her car was staged. And obviously he would have been the last one that was around Crystal and her car. So it's either Crystal or him, unless he hired somebody or somebody else was involved. And it could be, but I think with that one, and I'm sure it probably involves other things as well, but that when I think of tampering with evidence, I would think that would be the staging the car as well, plus more. Then it also goes on to say, believing that official proceeding may be pending, believing that an official proceeding may be pending or insinuated, he destroyed, mutilated, concealed, removed, or altered the physical evidence which he believed was about to be produced or used in such an official proceeding, with the intent to impair its validity or availability in the official proceeding. So tampering with evidence, maybe even the body, the gun, the weapon used. Obviously, that could implicate many different things. So, and they said probably more are going to be, probably more charges to come. So there is that. I think there's any more with that. The defense did put out something. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. It's 14 pages. It's obviously this is from the defense saying that, hey, our client is not involved. He's been, an outstanding citizen of the public. Obviously it's what the defense is going to do. Stick up for the client and say that they weren't involved. They do talk about his polygraph and saying that that many people failed their polygraphs. And let's see, where does it say? It says, where is it? Oh, there it is. That he took the polygraph. The results did not show deception. But he did get, where was it? An inconclusive, which is kind of depends, could be a fail. I believe Nick failed, but I think his was inconclusive. I guess that's why Steve from True Crime Web, he doesn't put a lot of stock in polygraphs, because they can be, some people fail that are innocent, and then the other way around as well. So, and that's why they're not completely used in as evidence. But yeah, of course, his defense attorneys will just look at the highlights, but basically they're asking to knock the $10 million down to $500K, which now we know he has $10 million in assets, and that would be chump change to him. He's asking for a special condition. He wants a GPS monitoring with work release. So he wants to be allowed He'll wear a GPS monitor. The attorney alleges he's been unfairly subjected to character, bad press. What else does it say? It says, Mr. Houck, it's continued to run a very successful business. I don't know what that has to do with not meaning you can't be, a very terrible person. Of course, they have to include being a loving father and a family man, which is really tough to hear because, like I said, they had a boy together in which the parents of, Crystal, the Rogers family, they haven't been able to see their grandson, and so now they're pushing to get, I think, custody is what I saw. So hopefully that'll, things will start turning around for this family. So let me see what you guys are saying in chat here. Perhaps mess with gun. Oh yeah, I'm sure tampering evidence. I mean, you could look at so many different things. Yeah, the gun, anything used to cover up the actual crime itself. But now, let's see. Teresa says, I believe the arrest will happen within 2 weeks based on the prosecutor's statements in court. And I'm assuming you're referring into Nick. Yeah, because I mean, that's a very serious implication. As a matter of fact, there's one thing I did forget to pull up. And that is, where is it? Is it this one? From Rogers family. Damn, it's not this one. But they talk about how he used fake names. I think it's the other one. Let me pull this one up. Joseph Lawson. No, it's not that one. And maybe it's got to be this one here. Yeah, so here it says prosecutors believe they have the gun that was used to take Tommy's life. I mean, that's huge. The question is, where did they get the gun? I mean, that's really weird. With 2 people arrested and that they got the gun, that's why it makes me wonder, out of the 2 people arrested, if one of those 2 were the shooter. Because unless the gun went back to Nick, I don't know. That wouldn't make sense. So clearly, they got the gun after arresting one of the 2, I would assume. Let me know what you guys think in chat. I mean, I think this kind of answers who may have pulled the trigger. Unless Brooke got the gun back and tried to hide it or something like that. That could be the possibility too. But in some ways, I mean, if they got the gun, that means it would have to come from one of the 2 arrested, unless I'm missing something. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. But I think that kind of points towards, let's see if I can pull it back up. I mean, we got the 2 guys here, 1 and 2. Let me move this over. Arrested. Now, both of them are facing charges that are in regards to Crystal Rogers. But things can change. But they now have the gun. So, did it come from one of the arrests of these 2 guys? And if they did have the gun, could that mean that one of these 2 guys were the shooter? Let me know what you guys think in that. I mean, I think that kind of gives us a little hint into who may have been the shooter. No laws in Kentucky for grandparents' right. Yeah, obviously, I don't know about the laws in Kentucky for, custody battles. But it just makes me sick thinking, if you guys know the Josh Powell case, that really, I'm so glad that they got him arrested, because that turned into the worst case scenario ever. And hopefully they learn their lesson from that situation. The prosecutor explained in the footage you played, and it's in the article. As far as who they got the gun from, I played the highlights. I've seen part of I know they had the whole thing, but the audio was really bad, so I didn't really get to listen to it. So maybe I missed something, Teresa. Let me know, because but yeah, the article. Let's see if here. So yeah, the one thing I wanted to go back to is Nick. Yeah, Nick, the brother of who was the former Bardstown police officer, who was fired. The firearm that we purchased from Nicholas Houck. Okay, so it's quoted as saying the firearm that we purchased from Nicholas Houck. Oh, okay, something I did overlook. Who was using a fake name who sold the rifle. So they bought the rifle from Nick, who was using a fake name. Okay, all right, I didn't overlook that. You're right. Interesting. And now they're checking, and the caliber of the rifle matched that was used to kill Tommy. And there's 5 criterias, and they match 4 out of the 5. Till Ballard, Crystal's grandfather, so he felt real good with the bombshells. So is that what I'm understanding? Is that Nicholas sold it to somebody that they somehow obtained it, and that's how it was obtained. Okay, I missed that part. But still, we don't know who shot Tommy. Interesting. What a wild case, but just so happy that they're getting the ball rolling. Undercover cops. Okay, all right. Thank you, Teresa. Bought it from Nick, who was selling it under a fake name. Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you so much, Teresa. Like I said, I know about this case, but I don't know all the little details. But that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And that's great work by law enforcement to be able to get the gun. I mean, with 4 unsolved tragedies and no kind of justice in sight, 8 years for them, even longer for these other ones, and now finally you got 2 that are possibly going to get some kind of justice, or maybe some kind of closure eventually. Except, we still got to find Crystal's remains, which is terrible. But I think if anybody's going to possibly be the person that spills this open, is going to be this guy. This guy has nothing to lose. And hopefully he talks. T Salad says they believe Nick, and that wouldn't surprise me. The brother. Yeah, if he had the gun, yeah, that's interesting. If he had the gun, why did he have the gun? Interesting. He already squilled. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that's what led to the arrest of Brooks. And now just the dominoes. Dominoes are going to continue to fall. Let's hope that happens. I can definitely do a little recap on this. Lucille, can we start over, laugh over? You can always go back to the first, but I'll now recap some of the highlights as well. Mama Blank, thank you so much. Love that name. Great presentation. Thank you so much for the $1.99. Yeah, that's something I like to put in my shows. I always try to put kind of a PowerPoint presentation together. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes, yeah. But yeah, for the most part, they go quite well. And I love doing like kind of PowerPoint presentations other than, there's so many different true crime channels and everybody does it their own way. And they, and that's great. That's what's so nice is you can get to choose what you like. But yeah, I like the PowerPoint presentation. I'm a visual person. And so I definitely like that. Let's see, what time is it? 6:30. Wow, man, it's already been an hour and a half. All right, I'll recap just a little bit if you're coming in late, but I do want to mention one thing. So just off topic, if you guys do bank, which I'm sure a lot of you do and have bank cards, and the reason why I missed Wednesday's show and I've been super busy the last few days is I got a new debit card because my old one expired at the end of September. And so I got my new card in the mail and I activated it. And I think it was either September 30th or October 1st. So it was literally just this last weekend. And I went and used it at a emissions shop. So I know maybe not everybody may know what emissions shop because I know some people don't have to do emissions, which I found out. I was kind of bummed. Our state, Utah, we require emissions. But anyway, so every year when you get your car registered, we have to also take emission tests. Unless your car is newer, then sometimes you skip years, whatever. But anyway, they just run emission tests. You got to pay, it depends on where you go, $30, $50, something like that. But yeah, I went to a place that I usually go. It's a little low-key place. And it's usually it's a female owner, and I really like her. I've gone to her many years. But yeah, I went there. I got my new card. I went there, but she wasn't there working that day. It was actually just some random guy I've never seen before. And I only really come in once a year, so I really don't know, other than usually the ladies there working. But anyway, so I used my card there, my bank card, and later on in the day, I didn't make any other purchases, so I have this new card, new number, and of course I have my multi-step verification. I have, any alerts set up on my phone, so if there's any activity, I get notified by my, by the bank fraud or whatever, if there's any kind of unusual charges. And yeah, so I got this text message saying, hey, did you try to make this purchase to this doctor bill or whatever? It was called Ghost Express. I'm like, I've never heard of that. So I said no. Anyway, so I don't know if it was that guy. I honestly don't know. But that's the only place I used this new card with. I didn't purchase anything online. That's the only thing I used my card with. My brand new number and everything was just that place. Anyway, so I had to freeze my account because whoever tried to do it twice that same day. And so they ended up freezing my account. And so, yeah, I had to end up getting another bank card. But what happened is when I called my bank, I guess this was kind of like a new girl there. Maybe she was just super busy, but she said she would take care of it, and she was going to send me this very important email, which I had to sign because my bank is out of state. And anyway, I didn't get the email. I thought maybe, it might take a day for it to come, because maybe they're busy. And anyway, I didn't get it. Waited a day or two, then I finally called them up again. Anyway, I had to get everything sorted out. So it's been a little bit of a pain in the ass. But long story short is, if you have the opportunity, I know it's kind of Captain Obvious, but if you haven't set up, your two-step verification or your phone, especially your phone verification, do that. And not just with your bank, anything. A lot of things have, like with your emails and stuff, because a lot of stuff's attached to your emails and everything. Anyway, if you haven't set it up, usually they call it the two-step verification. Some even have 3. Do it. Now, I didn't lose any money. Obviously, I have my security in place, so I didn't lose any money. It was a pain in the butt, and it had to get everything all set up. So anyway, sorry to sidetrack, but yes, I learned about that because I moved to Ohio for a few years, and I was talking to my buddy. I'm like, oh, so you got to get your emissions done? And looked at me funny. He was like, what? Yeah, we used to do emissions and safety, but they took away safety. But yeah, God, I mean, you used to have to pay like $150 just to renew your car each year, and you had to make sure it passed. And if it didn't, then you had to put more money into it. So, but yeah. Anyway, sorry to go off on that little tangent, but yeah, if you have it, set it up, because it's totally worth it. Anyway, sorry, got off track there. Let me make sure I didn't miss any. I missed that. SJ Howard, thank you so much for the $4.99 super sticker. You are so awesome. Every little donation helps us. So another thing before we go, just some updates that are coming up. So as you guys may or may not know, if you're newer to the channel, one thing that we're trying to switch into is kind of like an AWP channel, but obviously not with that kind of stigma. We want to do everything professionally. Oh, what happened to my chat? Where'd it go? There we go. Sorry, my chat disappeared. And so we got a little bit of funding, me and Steve, this year. And of course, we went out to Texas. We did the Amber Crumb case. And we thought we might have, hit the big one because it was a 40-year-old cold case. We found what we thought were remains and stuff. I have to be careful what I say. And which was under the house, and which was an area that we thought may contain something. And so all those artifacts, that we'll call them, had to be sent off to private labs, and that cost a lot of money. So we ended up spending a lot of money on the private labs because we were really hoping that we had found Amber's remains or part of them. And unfortunately, we had multiple things that we found, and we got the last one back, and sadly, it wasn't her, something else. But we were really hoping that was the case, and that would have really put us, got us much more exposure. But it'll eventually happen. And then, of course, we worked on the Aiden Clune case and plan on continuing that. I know a lot of people ask about the Dylan Rounds case. Dylan Rounds case is a little more trickier because the family really doesn't. I don't want to speak for the family, but they kind of made the impression that they really don't want people going out there. They kind of want to do it with private things and stuff. So, and I want to be respectful for that. So I don't want to be going out there if they're, don't want people, going out there without, their permission, because we've always done with making sure, when I went out for Dillon rounds, I always made sure that, the family was okay with us going out there. Because there was a couple times where obviously they didn't want anybody going out there. And so we still went out there, but we just didn't go to Lucin. We went to surrounding areas thinking maybe he could have been, But anyway, then we go on to Dior Coon's case. We just got back from. We learned a lot, and there's a lot of stuff that we can't even talk about. And I know a lot of people are really hoping us to be going in the water, and I'm so bummed that we didn't get to do that. But we will be using that equipment, I promise. But sadly, it just didn't work out. There's just everything that could have gone wrong did, sadly, on that part. But at the end of the day, after going there and camping there for 3 days, me and Steve both believe he's not in that lake. Unless, he did. There's just no way he's in that lake. He's probably the other direction. And good to see you, Tony. I hope you're doing well. Speaking of Dillon Round's case, somebody that Tony D from EquiSearch, amazing man. Honored to have you in here as always. But let me quickly recap everything for those that missed everything. But let me check Twitter, see if there's anything. That's one thing I meant to do. So they released the full indictment, which really we just looked at. There's not a lot to the actual indictment itself. Doesn't give a lot of details. They released the 14 page motion to reduce the bond, which obviously the defense, it's going to put up their reasons why they believe their client is innocent. But clicking on the latest, it doesn't look like there's anything else. But, we do got the weekend and the holiday weekend basically coming up. So I don't know, it might be slow this weekend, and then maybe hopefully things will pick up next week. But it seems like as we quickly recap everything, Nick will be the next one to be arrested. And then maybe some family members as well with the grand jury thing. I mean, that's crazy. So I'll play the update one last time. So this is obviously in regards to Crystal Rogers, who went missing July 3rd. Let's see, let me pull this up here. 2015. And then a year later, her father, Tommy, would be assassinated. And the ex-boyfriend, Brooks Houck, would be named the main suspect in the disappearance of Crystal. And then eventually 2 arrests would come, which is Joseph Lawson here, who is now a paraplegic because he had some motorcycle accident in 2021. But sounds like he may have possibly spilled some beans, and shortly after his arrest, they would eventually arrest Brooke Houcks, which is a lot of people have been waiting for a long time. So here is the update.
Prosecutors have the gun they believe was used to kill Tommy Ballard, who was actively leading the search for his daughter. WHS 11's Shay McAllister and chief photojournalist Philip Merle are in Bardstown right now. And Shay, everyone was there to learn if Houck's $10 million bond would hold up. So how did this news about Tommy Ballard come out today?
Oh, Doug, well, when you think about a courtroom hearing here, there's a lot of things you expect to happen, and especially in an arraignment, and those things did happen. We talked about the bond reduction. They talked about the thousands, literally thousands of pages of evidence in the case. They also talked about a possible move of venue later on for trial. Here's what we didn't expect. A bombshell in another unsolved Bardstown case. The prosecutor telling us not only are they investigating Tommy Ballard's death, they think they know who was responsible. In front of a packed courtroom, another shocker in the small-town murder mystery that just keeps twisting and turning. For the first time, we hear who investigators believe killed Tommy Ballard. Special Prosecutor Shane Young saying they are currently testing a gun that belonged to Nick Houck.
We're investigating the murder of Tommy Ballard that could potentially be related to this case. We are waiting for testing to come back on the firearm we believe was used to murder Tommy Ballard, a firearm that we purchased from Nicholas Houck, who was using a fake name when he sold the rifle.
The prosecutor going into...
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that little quote right there. So yeah, purchased a weapon from Nick Houck's, the brother of Brooks Houck that's been arrested, which was the gun that was used to shoot Tommy. So that's huge. So I think the arrest of Nick is coming next. And now, not only that, but with Crystal, we now have things going down with Tommy Ballard's situation. So that's amazing. And then the other big thing was, where is it here?
All recorded.
Okay, you're right.
Recording grand jury proceedings.
The defendant's sister, Rhonda McEvoy Houck, brother Nicholas Houck, mother Rosemary Houck, brother-in-law Alex McEvoy, and Rosemary Houck's live-in boyfriend, Larry Mott, all recorded, secretly brought in recorders and recorded the grand jury. I've been practicing here, Your Honor, for 25 years in this state, and I've yet, ever, heard of anyone recording a grand jury.
He alleged the family...
That's crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, here's all the players real quick. This is Brooks Houck. He's the one that's been arrested in connection to Crystal Rogers' disappearance. We got his brother who apparently sold the firearm that was used to kill Tommy. That is Crystal's father. And then we have Joseph Lawson, who we don't know a lot about Joseph Lawson, really, other than that his father worked for Brooks Houck. That's the only real thing we know. We know that Joseph did have a pretty bad rap sheet when he was younger. Or not even when he was younger, but just priors. And a lot of that was violent, can't say that word. Bad things against women. So it seems like karma kind of hit him, but then he ended up being a paraplegic in 2021. But this is the family. Do I have the family photo? I might have put that aside. So there's the picture of Crystal. This is Crystal here. This is the son that they had together. This is the main suspect. They thought he was a suspect long ago after her disappearance. She disappeared in 2015. And then a year later, her father, which is Tommy here, was looking into her case and was doing a bunch of research, and they believed that he was getting too close to the answers, and sadly he was literally assassinated. He was out with his grandson hunting a year later from his daughter's disappearance, and somebody shot him with a rifle, and yeah, it was absolutely terrible. But now we're slowly starting to get little pieces of the puzzle kind of put together, but they still have not found the remains of Crystal, even though they have tried many times. I can't imagine what that would be like for the mother to go through all these different occasions where they are digging up these properties that the ex-boyfriend owned and hoping to find maybe remains, but so far no luck. But maybe that will eventually change. So hopefully that kind of puts things together for those that kind of come in here late. You can always go back, rewatch. Yeah, Monday is Columbus Day, federal holiday. So if you're do work the typical 9 to 5, and so a lot of people will have off that day. And I said that I was going to be trying to pick up more live shows, so I may be doing a live show Saturday. I'm going to probably try to do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday type deal. And then, of course, for the members, I always put something out at least once a week on somewhere at the beginning of the week, usually. And that stuff always varies. I try to switch it up, behind the scenes stuff, sometimes some funny videos, and then of course I have my Patreon, same thing, and I do kind of different stuff for each of those. So if you'd like to go and support me over on that, that would be awesome. And just make sure I didn't miss any donations on here. Anyway, but yeah, I think that is it. So we'll probably be back on tomorrow because we've got an hour and a half. I usually try to keep it down to an hour and a half, but thank you, Mary B. Yes, more live shows. I really appreciate everybody. We have such a wonderful community here. And of course, on Mondays we have Steve from True Crime Web. It's always awesome to have on. And then I think we're gonna have Jason Watts on, hopefully again real soon. See if there's any updates with the Jason Landry case. And yeah, just a lot going on. So. Let's see. Lucille says, be careful with prepaid Visa cards also. I received 2 of them purchased Kroger. Both were hacked. Whoa. Oh, you know what? I heard that, yeah, sometimes they'll take the numbers somehow, and then they just so what they'll do is they'll go into the store, I think, or something like that, and they'll look at the numbers or something like that. I'm not sure, I can't remember, and they may have changed it, but yeah, somehow they'd had the numbers. Obviously they wouldn't work, but they would keep trying them, and then eventually, if somebody had bought one at the store, then yeah, they'd quickly take the money out. So yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. It sucks. And being a content creator, we're always getting, oh, yes, so glad you brought that up. Evansdale. Yes, I literally have it written down. Evansdale. My other update. Yes, we have things going on with that case. There's many things that we have going on with these cases. I mean, right down to Abercrombie. Even though we put a lot of money into that case, hoping that we'd, we tried our best, and we're still not done with that case. But that did cost a lot for us to do that case, because we spent a lot on lab testing. And I don't think anybody's expect us to get our first case, not the second, maybe in the third. I mean, these are cold cases, and they're cold for a reason. So it's going to take some time. But yeah, Evansdale, Drew Collins, yes, we're going to hopefully have him on. And man, I really wish I could explain some of the things that we have going on behind the scenes. It's only a matter of time when we nab our first case. So we're going to keep trying, and we're going to keep helping with the missing. So once again, if you are new to the show, if you do have a friend or a family member that currently went missing, you can always email me and be happy to feature them. So with that, I think Mama says, us nurses, oh, I'm sorry, never have off. Yeah, I understand that. I appreciate you being a nurse and helping. Obviously, I'm sure many of us have been in a hospital, and it's I've had some great experiences with nurses. I don't know when exactly. It'll be sooner than later, but I don't have an exact date yet. I still need to speak with Steve. I may have an answer Monday. So, but I will definitely let you guys know as soon as I do. So, with that, I'm going to end it there. I probably will go the same time today as tomorrow because Steve gets on probably right now on Saturday, so I think 4:30, 6:30 Eastern to 8 is just right because I'll end just before he starts. So I'll probably do that tomorrow. So thank you guys so much. Of course, shout out to my wonderful mods, Karen, Copper Horse, D. They do an amazing job. Shout out to my wonderful mods and to everybody. Please hit that like button before you leave. And we'll go ahead and I don't know if I've loaded up my outros. Let me see real quick. Okay, I do got one loaded up. Alright guys, I want to play the outro and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Love you guys. Be safe.